Before we get any further into this episode, I want to share with you a resource that I've been using called Faithful Counseling. Faithful Counseling is a solution for people seeking traditional mental health counseling who would prefer hearing from the perspective of a Christian. If you are seeking a mental health professional who is a practicing Christian, Faithful Counseling may be a great option for you. I'm going to share a few details about this app in case you're interested in checking it out. One of the best things is that you can start communicating in under 24 hours. This is not a crisis line and is not self-help. It is professional counseling done securely online with real therapists. One of the best things also is that there is a broad range of expertise in Faithful Counseling's counselors network, which may not be locally available in some areas. However, the service is available for clients worldwide. You can log into your account at any time and send a message to your counselor. And you'll get timely and thoughtful responses. Plus, you can schedule weekly video or phone sessions so you won't ever have to sit in an uncomfortable waiting room, as with traditional therapy. Faithful Counseling is committed to facilitating great therapeutic matches, so they make it easy and free to change your counselors if needed. It's more affordable than traditional offline counseling, and financial aid is available for those who need assistance. Faithful Counseling wants you to start living a happier life today. Visit their website and read some of their testimonials that are posted daily, or you can listen to my personal review that I shared a few years ago, I think, maybe like a year or so ago, before this collaboration came about, and you can learn about my personal experience. If you're interested in signing up and joining over 500,000 people who are taking charge of their mental health with the help of a professional, use my link, getfaithful.com/soulbeauty. Again, if you are interested in taking charge of your mental health, use my link, getfaithful.com/soulbeauty. By using my link, you will get 10% off your first month of sessions. And again, that's getfaithful.com/soulbeauty. Back to the episode. Hello, beautiful people. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. Today, we're going to be talking about 10 self-care practices that you can implement to help you deal with the chaos in the world. So, I felt compelled to make this podcast because there's a lot happening right now. I'm recording this on May the 30th, so there's currently protests happening all around the world right now due to the injustice that has been going on for centuries towards Black people. And there's just a lot happening, and it can feel very taxing on us emotionally, physically, spiritually, and mentally at times. And I just wanted to create or share some of the things that I have been doing. Really, that's all I'm doing, is sharing some of the self-care practices that I have been doing that can possibly help you. I did a little question and response thing on my Instagram the other day, asking people what they wanted to talk about. And, the topic of just being Black in America right now came up a lot. And I don't necessarily feel as though my platform is the space to have those conversations. However, I do feel like if you feel compelled to have those conversations, that you should find those communities that are having those conversations. And I hope that these self-care practices can just aid you in your day-to-day maintenance of yourself as you are, participating in these conversations, starting these conversations, and even whatever action you're taking, if that's joining movements, if that's protesting, if that's signing petitions, whatever it is that you feel called to do. I just hope that these resources and practices act as support for you on your journey. That is my offering to the community right now. That's what I can offer. So the first thing that I want to share about self-care practices that I have been doing, first and foremost, is therapy. Like, I know you guys are probably so tired of me talking about therapy, but I am going to talk about therapy until I am blue in the face, because it is effective and it really does help. And especially when things just feel so chaotic with the pandemic and with the protests and with just everything that's happening, it's just a lot of energy right now. A lot of negative energy, a lot of heavy energy, a lot of just really turmoil in this world. And therapy is one of those things that really has been acting as a guiding force for me with my mental health journey. Just having that once a week check-in with my therapist, and sometimes twice a week, because you guys know, if you've been following for a while, that I have a physical therapist that I go to. Well, not currently. I see her virtually, or I talk to her on the phone, but typically we would meet in person. And then I also have the app Faithful Counseling, and that's where I talk to my therapist via chat, or we'll schedule a video or a phone call. But those are shorter meetings, and I kind of use those as like check-ins throughout the week, whereas my other therapy session is more because we have a longer relationship with each other. I use that to kind of go deeper into heavier themes that are coming up in my life to help me unpack those. So that's how I use therapy. You can, find whatever works for you. But that's currently how I'm using therapy and how it's assisting me in my self-care journey. The next thing I want to share are sound bath meditations. So sound bath meditation, I believe I talked about here on the podcast before. If not, I definitely talked about it on my YouTube channel. But it's basically working with sound energy as a form of healing your body. The sound frequencies, there's so many different frequencies. You can look them up if you're interested, but there's so many different frequencies that connect with different parts of your body, different organs, different energy centers in your body, different chakras. I know how some people feel about chakras and all of that. Take what works for you, sis. As I always say, if it does not resonate with you, leave it where it is. But scientifically, sound has been proven to heal our bodies, right? This is not necessarily a religious thing or a spiritual thing. It can be, but just scientifically, you can research it and see for yourself that sound has the ability to heal. And sound bath meditations are, facilitated by instructors where they use different things. Some people use sound bowls, crystal sound bowls. Some people use other type of devices to create sounds. I've experienced sound bath meditations in person. I also experienced them virtually. And when I was going through my breakup, that was something that I did every day that really did help me to move energy in my body. A lot of times we don't realize that the energy from the world or whatever we're going through personally is literally like trapped in our body, trapped in our tissues, trapped in our cells. And that creates a ripple effect where it causes all these other issues. It causes, disease. It causes stress. It causes different type of ailments and issues with your body. And doing something like sound meditation, it's just one of the ways that you can move that energy through your body and out of your body. So if you're interested in learning more about that, two people that I would highly recommend is my friend Brittany. She has a podcast called The Everyday Intentions, and you can find her on Instagram at Brittany Shanice. That's CHENISE. She's also going to be on the podcast soon, so look out for that. And I'll link her Instagram in the description if anyone wants to check it out. But she offers sound bath meditations. I'm not sure if she's currently offering them, but she's a facilitator that I trust because I've experienced her classes more than once. And then there's also Koya Webb. Koya Webb is a yoga and meditation instructor and a sound bath facilitator. She also does breath work, and she offers classes as well. And I will link the one that I listened to this morning, actually, that really helped me because I was feeling very heavy with all that's happening right now. So those are two people that I would highly recommend if this is something that's resonating for you. Okay. The third thing that I would recommend is TikTok. And I know you're probably like, girl, what, TikTok? But if you follow me on Instagram, you know that I have been having myself a blast on TikTok lately, okay? I decided to make my videos public because initially I was just doing it for myself. But I shared one on my Instagram story and I asked if people were interested in, like, you know, watching TikToks, if you wanted to follow my page to see my shenanigans, and people actually were into it. So I decided to make my videos public. It's really just videos of me learning these TikTok challenges, but it has been therapeutic for me. I love dancing so much. It brings me so much joy. I used to go to Zumba classes like multiple times a week when the gym was open. I actually was a Zumba instructor for a very short period of time in my life, but I love dancing. I was on like different teams when I was in school and cheerleading and stuff like that. So that's always been something that I've really enjoyed doing. And I think the older that I get, the more that I realize how therapeutic it is and how much for me it connects with just like my childhood expression of myself when I was the most carefree, when I didn't have any worries, when I didn't have any stress. And when I'm dancing, that's how I feel. Like when I'm doing those TikToks, I'm literally just like in a bubble and I forget about all that's happening in the world. And I'm just having fun and I'm focused on learning and I'm focused on having a good time. And yeah, so if you're interested in, you know, if dance is something that is therapeutic for you and something that you enjoy doing, TikTok. It's a great way to get that out of your system. So I just wanted to share that. Also, as a bonus, something else that I wanted to share is this app called Smule. And it's kind of like TikTok, but it's karaoke. It's like you can basically do karaoke with different people. You can join like essentially like a group chats and, you know, people can sing. It's really cool. It's like a cool way to connect with people, especially at a time like this. I've had the app for years, but I feel like especially at a time like this is a cool way to connect with people with similar interests. They have all types of music. So Smule is another app that I would suggest if you are someone that likes singing rather than dancing. Or get both, but I'm gonna let you know right now, I'm not making my Smule public, okay? So don't try to find me. Don't catch me outside. Like, no, the Smule will go with me to my death because baby girl, these vocals, and to think I wanted to be a singer when I was 9, so glad that didn't work out. Anyway, the fourth tip that I want to share is warm baths with Epsom salts and essential oils. So I have not had a warm bath in probably a few months. So I feel kind of like a hypocrite giving you guys this tip, but I love baths. I love baths so much, and it's just a way to just feel like this warm, comforting embrace. Like that's kind of how I think about it sometimes. It's like when I'm getting in the bathtub, it's like I'm giving myself a nice warm hug. And I was actually watching this video once, and it talked about how scientifically, when humans are craving comfort, we gravitate towards warm things. So like a warm cup of tea, which is something that I have every single day. I'm having one right now, actually. But a warm cup of tea or a nice warm bath, those are ways that we cope and comfort ourselves. And I thought that was so interesting because I do that all the time, but I guess I never connected the scientific part to it. But yeah, warm baths with Epsom salts and essential oils. Now, Epsom salts have magnesium in them, so I would encourage you to, make sure that your body is okay with that, because I know everyone has different health conditions, but it really does help to relax the muscles in your body. It relieves pains and aches. It's really beneficial if it's something that works for your health and lifestyle. So look into it if you haven't tried it before. They also make Epsom salts that have essential oils infused into them. You can find Epsom salts at any major drugstores, like a Target, a CVS, anything like that. You can find Epsom salts. However, I usually like to add my own essential oils because I find sometimes that the Epsom salts, when they have all that stuff in it, it's heavily fragrance, and fragrances can be linked to a lot of health conditions long term. So, and when I say fragrances, I mean if you look at the back of something and the first ingredient is fragrance, that's an artificial chemical used to make this fragrance. So perfumes can be really bad for you. All the stuff that you see in Sephora and all of that, all those brands that sell those high-end perfumes, those can actually be really, really toxic on your endocrine system. So just something to consider as a little side note. But I usually, when I'm making like perfumes or anything like that, I actually use essential oils. And when I'm buying stuff that's made from essential oils. So that's a side note. If you guys are interested in that, let me know, because I could rant about that all day long. But yeah, those disrupt your hormones and could lead to a lot of issues. So over long periods of time, I would not recommend constantly buying the Epsom salts that have fragrance in them. I think if you're using it occasionally, it's probably okay. But being a person that enjoys taking baths, I try to lean towards the ones that are not fragrance, and then I add my own essential oils. And the oils that I really enjoy using are lavender, which is great for relaxation, reducing stress. Chamomile is also another one that's great for that. I also like to infuse in some type of citrus just because I love citrus smells, and those are great for kind of the opposite, like energizing, stimulation. But I just really like the smell. So I'll add something like grapefruit, I'll add orange, sweet orange, and I'll add like lemon. Not all three, but I'll usually add one of them. And eucalyptus is something that I have been loving. Eucalyptus and tea tree are like two of my favorites. Tea tree is actually really great for inflammation. Like if you have like a cyst or a pimple or something like that, you can actually use it topically. But if you do, just research it because you're supposed to dilute it. However, if you are using it in a bath, like eucalyptus especially is great for, especially right now at a time like this with this virus going around, it's like great for your respiratory system, for clearing you out if you have any mucus or blockage. Putting eucalyptus into your bath water can really help to just open up your sinuses. I have not tried this, but when I was staying with a roommate when I first moved here, she used to have eucalyptus in the shower, like fresh eucalyptus. And I was just like, that's just such a great idea because the water kind of like activates it. So that's something you can look into as well. But I highly recommend, the baths with the Epsom salts and essential oils, but do your research, okay? Because not everybody is going to react the same way to essential oils and to Epsom salts. You may have allergies, you may have health conditions, so it's important that you do your research on these things. Okay, the next thing is tea, which I just got finished talking about. Having a warm cup of tea may seem simple, but again, back to that science of gravitating towards warm things, because it really does comfort us in moments of distress, and it's kind of like giving yourself a nice warm hug. So teas are really great at a time like this. I would also recommend drinking teas that will help you to just nurture your respiratory system, nurture your throat center, nurture that energy center of using your voice and really just being present, because it's easy sometimes at a time like this where there's so much happening to not be present and to feel like your voice is not heard and to feel like you can't make a change. So I think it's important that you incorporate different elements that will really help you to feel connected to your voice. So the tea that I am currently drinking and what I have been drinking for a while, I laid off the matcha for a little while because one, I ran out of creamer, and when I went to the grocery store, I couldn't find a small container of the vegan creamer that I was using. And also I felt like that creamer was making me mucusy, even though it was non-dairy. It was coconut cream and almond milk, but I still felt like it was creating mucus, and that's a no-no for me. Anything that's creating mucus gotta go. So I decided instead I use my matcha powder for my smoothies, and the tea that I have been drinking is elderberry. So I'm not sure if you've heard about elderberries, but elderberries are essentially nature's version of antibiotic, cold and cough syrup, all that crap that they give you. I was going to say excuse me, but no, not excuse me. It is crap. It's terrible for you. But all of the medication that they give you, if you have the flu or if you get a common cold, all that over-the-counter stuff, elderberry is essentially nature's version of that. If you are not onto elderberry, sis, bro, if you're a guy, what are you doing? Like, please, please, please get yourself some elderberry. Again, I highly encourage you to research these things, and I highly encourage you to, if you try to try with caution, because I recommended elderberry to someone a few years ago, and they had a terrible allergic reaction to the point where, like, I think they were in the hospital. So I'm not trying to be responsible for anybody's allergic reaction due to trying out elderberry. Know that anything that I'm recommending that is natural and herbs and from the earth could have some type of a reaction because it is medicinal. I think sometimes we forget that plants are truly healing and they have extreme benefits, but that also means that they come with side effects, just like when you're taking your over-the-counter prescriptions and stuff like that. There's side effects to these herbs as well. So just be mindful of that when you are purchasing and consuming things that myself or anybody is recommending online. Because oftentimes we are not nutritionists or herbalists, or we're just sharing things by trial and error. So you have to do your research and you have to use with caution. But elderberry is essentially the tea that I use. You can find this on my Instagram stories if you're interested. I have a whole highlight that's called wellness, and I share my teas and stuff in there. Maybe I should make one that's dedicated just to tea. Maybe I'll do that. But yeah. Check my Instagram highlights to see it if you're curious. But I use the dried berries and I put them into a little, what's those things called? It's like the little tea, I want to say diffuser, but I don't think that's what it's called. The things that you sit over your cup and you pour the dry herbs or whatever into, and then you pour the water in the cup. So I have one of those. And I just allow the dry berries to soak in the water for a few minutes, and the berries are so strong, like I can put probably like a teaspoon of dried berries into we're just gonna call it a diffuser since I don't know the name of it, into the diffuser, and I can make at least 2 to 3 batches of tea, like in mason jars. So this stuff goes a long way. Like I've had the same bag literally for months now. So that's something that I would highly recommend. It's anti-inflammatory, antibacterial. It is great for your respiratory system. It's great for just soothing your throat. Like I promise you guys, I have a lot of issues with my ear, nose, throat area, or not so much my nose, but my ears and my throat. I always have. And I would probably say for the last week, I was having like a lot of soreness in my throat, a lot of pain, a lot of swelling. Like I could feel the pain in my ear. It felt like I was kind of getting an ear infection. And I was like, you know what? I have been slipping on my elderberry tea. Let me start drinking this. I drank probably like 3 or 4 cups in the morning. And the swelling went down, the pain went down, and today I'm able to actually sit here and have a conversation like I've been talking on this podcast for I don't know how long now. And I could feel a little tenderness, but it's very subtle. Whereas yesterday and the day before, like the few days before, it was painful for me to talk. So this truly works. Do your research, but it works if it's something that you're interested in. It's especially great at a time like this where the virus is happening and a lot of us feel like hopeless, and like our voices are not being heard. This is a great way to just nurture that area. The 6th thing that I want to share is tapping into creative outlets. So I talked about singing and dancing. A few other things that I want to talk about that I've been doing that have been so nurturing and healing for me is painting and poetry. So I have gotten back into painting during the quarantine. It was something I used to do all the time as a kid. I would always paint. I would always draw. I would always color. Like I was always doing something creative. Like I'm talking about hours, guys. Like I would spend hours at the kitchen table after school just drawing. Like drawing just for hours. Like, even when I went over to my friend's house, sometimes I would be that friend that would be kind of like off to the side just drawing while everyone else is talking and doing whatever. I'm drawing. So I was definitely that kid, and I let that go probably around the time when I got into college. I guess mainly because like my focus just shifted. Like, I didn't necessarily want to be a designer anymore. If you guys didn't know that, I wanted to be a designer at one point, but I didn't want to be a designer anymore. And naturally, I just kind of started, you know what it really was, now that I think about it? The reason why I decided I didn't want to be a designer was because I didn't feel like I was good enough. You know, I was going to FIT, which is like one of the best, if not the best, fashion schools in the US. And I remember I had what's it called? I want to say an internship, but that's not what it's called. But it was like a job on campus where I worked in the fashion department. And I remember one of my assignments was to review all of the applications from the fashion students who wanted to get accepted. And I was looking through their designs and their works and their illustration, and I was just like, oh my God, like, because my plan was initially to transfer to fashion design. But then when I saw how good they were, I was like, I'm not this good. Like, I'm not going to get accepted into fashion design. And I remember, like, that was a part of my fashion design dreams dying. But it's fine because, God had a plan. And that industry is not for me anyway. So no love lost there. But I definitely remember that I stopped because it kind of felt like I had to be an expert at it in order to do it. And I just want to encourage you that you don't have to be an expert in order to do hobbies. I think that's why a lot of people don't have hobbies, is because we feel like we have to be experts at things in order to start, or in order to just do it just for therapeutic reasons. And that's just not true. Like, you can paint for yourself, you can sing for yourself, you can dance for yourself. Like I shared earlier with Tik Tok and Smule, like, I do those things for myself. I don't do it for validation. I don't do it to share with other people. I don't do it to say, look at this cool thing that I created. It's like, I'm literally doing this simply because it brings me joy, not for any other reason. And if it happens to bring you joy too, like, that's why I shared my TikTok, because if it brings you joy too, cool. But my intention when I did it and when I'm doing it is always to bring myself joy first. So I would encourage you to keep that in mind when you're picking up creative hobbies. Maybe painting and poetry doesn't resonate with you, but if it does, and you've been feeling resistant to doing it because you don't feel good enough, or you don't feel like your work is worthy, I want to kind of help you to shift that narrative and know that if you're doing it for yourself, it is good enough. If you're doing it as a part of your healing, it is good enough. If you're doing it as a form of self-care, it is good enough. So that is the 6th tip that I wanted to share. The next thing that I want to share right after I take this sip of tea is avoiding social media in the news. Now, this is something that I have personally been implementing for a very long time. You guys know, I think I shared on my YouTube channel that as a part of my healing from my breakup, I went on a detox, and in that detox I included social media. Initially, my plan was to just mute everybody, but that was taking too long, so instead I decided to unfollow everybody. And it's been the greatest decision that I could have made, because like subconsciously, without even noticing it sometimes, I will go on social media, and you probably do this too, without even knowing why. Like, you pick up your phone maybe to like check a message or read an email, and then you end up on social media, and you're like, how did I get here? And I notice now that I still do that. I do it a lot less, but I still do it. But when I do it, when I open my Instagram app and I literally only see the last photo that I posted and nothing else, I'm like, oh yeah, I wasn't even planning to come to Instagram. Not sure why I'm here, but let me just close this and continue doing what I was originally planning to do. So it's starting to shift, like, just my personal habits, but also times like this, right, when everyone has something to say, when, people are showing videos of protesting, videos of people being killed, and people are expressing their outrage and their anger, rightfully so, right? I'm not saying any of those things are wrong. People have the right to do and express however they feel to, but you don't have to witness it. You don't have to watch it. You don't have to listen to it. Yes, it's important to stay aware of what is happening, but you do not have to allow that stuff to come into your energetic space without any type of boundaries or control. You can limit when and where and how you want to receive this information. I was about to go down a rabbit hole, but I'm going to pause on that. So you have the power to limit that. So maybe for you that looks like muting certain pages or certain accounts. Maybe for you that looks like completely deleting your social media altogether or temporarily disabling it. You can decide what you need for yourself. But I think it's important that we realize that how you choose to receive information on social media is a choice. It's not just, this is just how it is. I have to see this because I'm here. The same with the news. You don't have to turn on the news first thing in the morning. Maybe that was a habit from when you were a kid. Maybe that's what your parents did. Maybe you're used to having something in the background, so you're just accustomed to it. But you don't have to do that. You don't have to do that to stay aware. You don't have to turn on the TV and sit and watch it or let it play in the background to stay aware. So what I do to stay aware, like I said, I don't follow anyone on social media. I rarely ever go to my explore page because the explore page, again, is out of my control. I don't know what's going to pop up at any moment. I could see somebody getting shot. I could see somebody being hurt. I could see anything. So I try to avoid my explore page. I don't follow anyone. And what I like to do is there's certain pages that I follow for information. So I live in California, so I'm going to check, the mayor of LA. I'm going to check the governor of California. Those are places that I check every day to see, the major updates with the virus and if there's any other things that I should know about. Something else that I do is a few times out of the week, I will check reliable apps for news. Reliable can look different for everyone, but some of the places that I like to check are the New York Times, CNN, and Apple has like a news app where it just shows you a bunch of stories from different places. So a few times a week, maybe even like once a week, I would say, I go up there and I read the highlights of what's going on, right? And then on a day-to-day basis, I'm also on an app that's called Citizen. And that app shows me a lot about what's currently happening with the coronavirus, the spread, the numbers. And that's something that I check probably like every other day. And it shows you based upon your location, but you can also see different locations. It also shows you what's just happening in your area, what's happening in the cities around you. So the riots and all of that, a lot of that has been up there. I choose not to kind of like go down that rabbit hole because I know that it's happening, but I more so want to pay attention to the important dates, right? So like I know tomorrow, the officer that murdered George is going to court. So like that's something that I want to be aware of, but I don't want to be aware of the day-by-day accounts of what's happening with the riots because that creates anxiety in me. That creates stress. That creates a sense of hopelessness. That creates a sense of just fear. And I don't want to exist like that on a day-to-day basis. So I choose not to engage with that. And I'm not saying that is right or wrong for you to engage or to not engage, but I do feel like you have to take personal agency over yourself. You have to be responsible for yourself. We can't be responsible for what everyone else is doing, how everyone else is moving, how other people are showing up in the world. But you can be responsible for yourself and how you're going to choose to show up in the world and how you're going to allow outside things to come into your personal world. So take control over that. Take responsibility for that. And if you feel drained and bogged down by, people constantly posting about it or people constantly talking about how they feel, take a step back from it. Take a step back from social media and the news and just do for yourself. And yeah, I just want to encourage you in that. And I also feel really strongly to add here that if you feel like you want to do something and you want to give back, I think one of the greatest things you can do is take care of yourself first. Take care of yourself first. Start by every day being intentional. How can I be the best version of myself so that I can then pour into other people? Whether you have a community, a podcast, a family, if you're a wife, if you're a coworker, if you're a parent, whatever it is, right? How can you show up for yourself first so that you can go out into your day and into the world and spread as much positivity and love and be as Christ-like as possible? You can't do that if you start your morning scrolling through social media and watching videos of people being killed and hurt in protests. You're gonna stir up anger in your heart. You're gonna stir up violence and hatred and hopelessness in your heart if you start your morning like that. So I would encourage you, if you are starting your morning like that, to just make some shifts, make some shifts and see how you feel and see how you can show up differently if you start your day differently. And I also want to encourage you that if you feel compelled to create something at this time, like if you're like, I just need an outlet to talk to other people who are feeling this, or I just wish this was available, or I want to do something, I want to get involved, do those things, do those things. If you feel led to start a petition, or if you feel led to protest, if you feel led to create some type of a support group, do those things. Similar to what I was saying earlier, where like someone reached out to me saying that, that's a topic they wanted to talk about. That's not my area of focus, because I know that for me, those topics for me is something that I really struggle with. And it's not something that I can show up as my best self and just hold space for people in that way. So I choose not to talk about that stuff on my platform. This is probably the most that I've ever talked about the virus and the protests and all of this type of stuff in the history of crazy stuff happening in the world. I never talk about that type of stuff in my content and on my profiles, because I know where I stand on the issue. A lot of times it's a constant practice for me to maintain my peace in that area. So I'm not going to create something from a place where I don't feel like I'm grounded and secure and I can really show up and hold space. That's why I choose to focus on the self-care element of this. But I will encourage you that if you feel called to create it. If you feel called to have that support group, have that support group. Do what you feel led to do, because we really have the ability, when we're showing up as our best selves and with our best intentions in mind, we have the ability to change lives. I know you may not feel that way sometimes. I know it may not seem that way, but we have the ability to change lives. So follow that conviction. Follow that little seed that you feel inside that's saying, I really wish this existed. Be the solution to that problem that you see. Be the solution to that thing that you feel like is missing in the world and in the conversation. Create that thing, because someone else is probably wishing for the same exact thing that you are. So create it if that's what you're feeling led to do. Okay, that was a very long rant. Number 8, prayer. I feel like I don't even really have to get too deep into this, but prayer for me is huge. It's something that I'm doing every day. It's something that I'm doing multiple times a day. It's something that when I don't have words, when I don't have the answers, when I'm just like, I don't understand why this is happening. I don't understand what is happening. I feel so much pain. I feel so much anger. I feel so much hurt. Prayer is where I go to return back to balance, to get back to a state where I can feel grounded and clear, and to do things like this, right? If I don't pray, I stay in that space of anger. I stay in that space of hurt. I stay in that space of disappointment. But when I pray, it's like I'm bringing myself back to center, and then I can function in my highest capacity for myself and for others. Number 9 is journaling. Journaling is huge. It's similar to prayer for me. It's like I have to get out the anger and emotions and feelings. Really, all of these things are just ways to get out and move the energy that you feel in your body, that overwhelming sensation that you have when you think about what's happening in the world. These are just ways to allow that to flow through you, and journaling is a great way to do that. I'm I'm also going to be posting an episode about how to start and commit to a journaling practice. So if that's something that you're not super familiar with or comfortable with doing, that episode might be of assistance to you. So look out for that as well. Finally, number 10 is to watch movies and TV shows that add joy and laughter and love into your life. For me, what I've been watching lately on Netflix is this show called Magic for Humans. It is a great mental escape. It is a great way to just kind of like ease your mind from what's happening in the world and just get lost in magic. Because to me, it's actually really fun and really cool to see this guy, doing these magic tricks on these complete strangers. Sometimes I'm like, I don't know if this is real. I think they have some camera stuff going on. But either way, it's really cool to watch and it's really funny. The host is just so funny. And then as far as movies, what else am I watching? I watched Uncut Gems on Netflix the other night. That's a great movie. It's kind of violent though, but it is a great movie and it kind of has some humor in there as well. Trying to think, what else did I watch on Netflix recently? Oh, there's this movie on Netflix called Uncorked, which is really good. It's very again, that mental escape. You kind of just get lost in the storyline. So those are some of the things that I've been watching recently. Also, I've been catching up on Insecure. I have a bunch of thoughts about that show, but that's neither here nor there. But that's something else that I have been watching that has been, a great mental escape from what's going on in the world to some extent. So those are some of the things that I wanted to mention. Also, I'll add in here a little bonus thing that really brings me joy, and that is podcasts. I love listening to podcasts. Some of my favorite podcasts is number one, Hidden Brain, which is like a psychology-based podcast. It's so just you learn so much from it. And a lot of times they talk about topics that are not relevant to, the day-to-day things that are happening. So you can just learn about random topics, which I think is really cool. Another one that I really enjoy is The Friend Zone with Hey Friend Hey, Dustin and Asante. And they do touch on current events sometimes. However, they have different segments. So they talk about music, they talk about TV, they talk about mental health. It's just a great, I think, all around podcast if you're looking for something that kind of includes a lot of different topics. So those are the things that I wanted to share as my self-care practices that have really been getting me through and holding me together during this time of chaos. I pray that these tips have been helpful for you, or even just listening to my podcast. I hope my podcast is a sense of relief for you in some way. And if it has been, make sure you leave a review and a rating on iTunes so that the show can get spread to more and more people. And also share with a friend, send them this link if someone you think they might need a little self-care in their life right now. Share the link with them. And thank you for listening. I really hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I really enjoyed recording it and chatting with you. So I will talk to you very soon. Please take care of yourself. And be well.